Alright guys, so today we're talking about the party, capital P, Communist Party of China. What is the organization like? How is it made up? How does it operate? What are its goals and its intentions? Let's get into it. Now guys, the Communist Party of China is the single largest political organization on planet Earth. I believe it's something like 88 million members of the Communist Party of China. And crucially in China, if you want to occupy any local, provincial or state or federal office place in the government, you must be a member of the Communist Party. There is no disassociation. If you work for the government, you must be a member of the Communist Party, which is different than most other political systems. Like, I'm an American. If I want to work for the American Department of State, one of the things they're not going to ask me is, hey, are you a Republican, a Democrat, an Independent, a Libertarian? It doesn't matter. If you're qualified for the position, you get to work in the Department of State or any other federal or state agency. Whereas in China, you must be a member of the Communist Party to work for the government, either on the local level or on the statewide level. So let me take you quickly through the leadership structure of the party. This is where policy is sort of crafted and how it's implemented and disseminated through the organs of the Communist Party government throughout China. So every 5 years, a body called the Party Congress meets. It's about a little over 2,200 party members who meet centrally in Beijing, and they're from all over China. They're top-level provincial and local officials. They meet and they sort of agree upon the agenda for the next 5 years. Now, this event is most important because this is where shakeups happen in the hierarchy of the Chinese Communist Party. And so it would be specifically important this year because Xi Jinping will be elevating many people into the Politburo and the Politburo Standing Committee, which we'll get to. And so there's a lot of jockeying for position. There's a lot of, hierarchical placements of people going here and there and people being demoted, people being let go, people resigning, people being sick during this time period. All these interesting things, intra-party dynamics that happen in any political party anywhere in the world. All right, so below the Party Congress, we have the Central Committee, and these people meet once a year. They have meetings about how the progression of the agenda that was set forth in the last Party Congress, how is that agenda moving forward, what changes need to be made. And then coming up now, we get to the real meat of the leadership, and this is the Politburo. Now, the Politburo, the wider Politburo, is made up of 25 members, and this includes the leader of China, Xi Jinping, the chairman of the Communist Party, and his officials, his cabinet. Think of it almost like a cabinet position. And so these 25 members have a range of different responsibilities. They'll be, the head of finance, the head of international relations, the head of commerce, the head of security. They'll come together, and these guys are really the ones who are crafting policy, who are setting the agenda. And even above the Politburo, you have the Politburo Standing Committee, and there's usually between 5 or 9, and these are sort of the top level executives. Think of these guys as the CEOs of China. Now, the ultimate leadership and the decision making lies within this Politburo Standing Committee, with Xi Jinping, the leader of China, at the central head of this organization. And so if you want to ask how is policy ultimately made, how is it decided, it's decided by the Politburo Standing Committee. And so once the Politburo Standing Committee decides upon policy and an agenda, it starts to disseminate down through the Politburo, through the Central Committee and the Party Congress, and out into the rest of China. But crucially, if you want to know where policy is made, it's that 5 to 9 member Politburo Standing Committee, and it's this committee that later this year in the Party Congress will have a lot of changes to it because crucially there is a cap, a time limit for how long people are allowed to serve, or at least an informal rule about how long people are allowed to serve on the Politburo Standing Committee. A lot of these positions are up this year, and so it'll be interesting to see who Xi Jinping elevates into the Politburo Standing Committee. Now, the important thing about the Chinese Communist Party is that they're everywhere. There's a famous quote from a book called The Party that says, "The party is like God. They are everywhere, you just can't see them." And so they infiltrate every aspect of society, from security, domestic security, international security, to trade, to business, to censorship, to every single aspect. There's not one part of Chinese society that the Communist Party of China doesn't have its fingers in. Now, because of the OneParty Rule of the Communist Party of China, and because China's Communist Party is essentially above law, they aren't subject to, the Supreme Court, or they aren't subject to the courts. They can basically get away with a lot of things because there's no one challenging them, there's no court system to hold them in check, and so they can make, whenever they want to institute a policy, like let's say they want to institute, the Party Congress that wants to develop more urban housing. And so they'll go into a specific area of Shanghai or Beijing or some other city, and they'll go up into a place that might have been around for 300, 400 years, and they want to bowl the entire area so that they can create modern high-rise apartment buildings. Well, basically what the central government can say is, get out. Thanks, but no thanks, you must move. We are forcibly relocating you, and the citizens don't really have a mechanism to challenge the central government. Who are they going to go to? Who are they going to complain to? The press? The press is censored, just like the arts are censored, just like education is censored, just like scholarship is censored. And so there's this huge apparatus in place. And so let's zero in on a few of these areas just to give you guys a concept or a context for how the party operates. And so one of the things we talk about when we talk about the education system in China, and particularly the higher education system, the university system, is how much the universities, how much the curriculums and the professors must toe the party line. There is no real room for debating against the party in the sense of trying to tear it down to replace the political order. There's no room for that kind of stuff. There's no room for really challenging party orthodoxy. There's no room for challenging party authority. And so what happens is that kind of mindset mixed with the kind of educational emphasis that the Chinese Communist Party has put on science, technology, and mathematics, you end up with a system that produces maybe a lot of technically qualified individuals, but not a lot of ability to cultivate a creative, entrepreneurial, against the grain type of thinking. And this is because people are encouraged not to lash out, not to go against the authority of the Communist Party of China. And when you do that, yes, you might get subservient people, but you're not going to unleash the creative potential that is within the Chinese people. And the Chinese people are incredibly creative, are incredibly industrious, mostly because they're human beings. And human beings anywhere, of any culture, of any religion, are very, very industrious. They're very, very creative. Universities around the world at different times in world history have been the focal point of unrest, no more so than China. If you look at Chinese history, a lot of the protests from Tiananmen all the way back into the early 1900s, a lot of the protests against the government of the day started in universities. And so if there's one place that you want to keep a lid on those pesky democratic protesters, you want to do it at university. Now, the second place I want to focus on where the party exerts a lot of control, and this is just absolutely fascinating, scary, crazy, interesting, and weird, is in the economy. And specifically what I want to talk about is the state-owned enterprises. Now, I've said before in last episode that there is a lot of private business that is happening in China, and that is totally true. But there are a few sectors of the Chinese economy, like banks, like chemical, like infrastructure, certain areas of the Chinese economy that are dominated by state-owned enterprises. One of the ways that the Chinese Communist Party exerts its influence on these state-owned enterprises and at top-level businesses, and these are multi-billion-dollar companies. These are not small little companies. These are some of the largest companies in the world, not just in China. One of the ways that the Communist Party exerts its influence is in the room, in the office of every CEO, there's a little red telephone that is only connected to the central Politburo of the Communist Party of China. And anytime the Politburo wants, Xi Jinping can pick up his phone and ring this little red phone, and the CEO or the CEO's, executives must answer this phone and must do what the, Xi Jinping and his leaders say in Beijing. Now, this is incredible. I mean, think about that. Think about if President Trump had a hotline to Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, or any country's leader had a direct line, a collusion line basically with the CEOs of different companies. That is a level of manipulation, of influence, of being in bed with, government and business that would be anathema to most of Western society. So what's the bottom line here? Between education, civil society, the arts, businesses, the Chinese Communist Party is put in place an authoritarian system that's going to help it maintain single-party control. That is everything that the Chinese Communist Party wants. They want singular control of Chinese society, and say they will do anything they can in every sector, using every asset they can, from domestic espionage to, hiring and firing executives, to controlling the curriculums of college campuses, in order to create a system that holds up, that backstops their single party rule. And so that's what I want you to think about the party. Now, crucially, what I don't have time to get into, but what I want to say at the end here is the Chinese Communist Party are full of very smart, very capable individuals. And over the last 10, 20 years, the Chinese Communist Party has done a lot to create schools and education systems, to create technocrats. That is, people who are really good at the specific jobs that they're doing, whether they be in finance, in the treasury, or international relations, or the army. So there's very capable people within the Chinese Communist Party. Don't think of them as like automatons that the Soviet bureaucracy used to, dole out in front of people. They're very smart and capable people, but ultimately the goal of the Chinese Communist Party is to hold on to power. All right, guys, that's it for today. What do you think about the Chinese Communist Party? Comment below, let me know, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and remember, guys, reality always, always trumps ideology.